Hey there, guys. All right, today we are watching some nostalgia. Been a few months, I think. This time, we're watching their video on how did the Silk Road actually work. Merchants walked across it. That sold goods, and there were middlemen, and then they would take it. Yeah, Silk Road video. Goodbye. No, all right. Let's Don't know why that stutter came out. Yeah, this is gonna be one of those videos for me. All right, let's dive in. Let's hear nostalgia. They'll give us an
All the
educated
way
answer.
back in the 2nd century BC, the Han dynasty served as the second Chinese imperial dynasty to date and had ambitions to accomplish more than just that.
I like how on this map we have the Greek settlements here in Bactria. I also like how we're getting like, I mean, it's a mix of Chinese, like UAE, Taiwan, Xiongnu here. But then we got the Indo-Greek civilization here. But then we go to the Parthian, Ptolemaic Egypt. The detail on this map, I'm a fan. Also, the rivers. We got the Dnieper, Don, Volga, Ural, Darya, Aral Sea. The detail, I love it.
Initially hoping simply to resolve the recurrent issue of conflict with the Xiongnu tribes along the north and west borders, the Han Emperor, Emperor Wu, decided in 138 BC to send an envoy off to try and form some type of alliance or garner support from the Yuzhai in the west. As he traveled through Central Asia, the emissary, Zhang Jie, witnessed for the first time a variety of new people and cultures and was particularly fascinated by the Daiyun people. To be specific, Jie was drawn to the horses of the Daiyun. Although the Han dynasty had long been using horses in warfare, and even as far back as during the 11th century BC, the Shang dynasty cavalry and chariots were popular, the horses of Daiyun appeared to Jie to be far superior to those that were bred in China. Admiring their size, strength, and speed, Jie returned to Emperor Wu and informed him of these magnificent beasts. As a result, Wu decided to purchase some of these Western horses, and in a short matter of time, with the help of their new horsepower, the Han dynasty was able to address the Xiongnu threat. Impressed by the success of Jie's journey west and the collaboration it inspired, Emperor Wu decided to take things a step further, triggering the official opening of the Silk Road in 130 BC, connecting the east to the west through a network of trade routes spanning roughly 4,000 miles from end to end, reaching from the Han in China to the tips of Europe. This was not the first such road, or more accurately, roads to create an international trade route though. In fact, it was the Persians under Darius I and the Persian Empire who had created the original. This was known as the Royal Road, and it stretched from Susa, which lies in modern-day Iran, all the way nearly 2,000 miles to the west in Sardis.
Okay, I mean, yes and no, I guess. I mean, I don't know if I'd really count that as part of this. I mean, it ends up becoming part of the Silk Road, but like the Royal Road served totally different purpose than what the Silk Road was doing. I mean, yes, this facilitated trade within the Achaemenid Empire, but it was more so for governmental purposes. I mean, it served, of course, the best things serve multiple purposes, right? We see this with Alfred the Great's burr system, where not only does it serve as a means of fortification and deterrent against Viking raids, right? It allows for protection of the area's farms, so that they can, eat. But they also end up becoming a good chunk of them end up becoming significant trade towns. So they provide multiple services, right? Interconnect the land, protect the land, trade, food, multiple things. The Royal Road does the same thing here, right? Interconnects the empire, the large empire, allows Darius to be more informed of the vast holdings, allows rapid movement of soldiers if needed, and messengers, and also will allow merchants to travel farther and faster. That would then make food cheaper as well. But I still wouldn't call this really like a pre-Silk Road, I guess. I don't know. I'm the progenitor of the Silk Road. I mean, I think I would certainly agree if, say, Darius had the road stretch from Sardis all the way here to India. Then I think a legitimate argument could be made for that, where he's really connecting this vast empire together. But the Royal Road was pretty much just located here in the Middle East and Anatolia,
which is today a part of Turkey. The Persians would also add smaller routes to the main one, which reached parts
Never mind. I was wrong.
of the Indian subcontinent and northern Africa as well.
He did have it go that far. Okay. I did not remember that. I did write in college a paper or two on the Achaemenid Empire. Really kind of just like how the empire was able to control its land or whatever, the way it ruled and stuff. I don't remember this. I think it really only talked about the main Royal Road, mainly because I didn't have the time to really go any deeper than that.
And this network came to be roughly 300 years prior to the opening of the Silk Road. Although later outdone by the Silk Road, the Persian Royal Road was quite impressive in itself, and
I feel like we're saying road a lot, and the word is starting to sound weird to me because of how much we're saying it.
the writings about its messengers, provided to us by Herodotus, would later form the basis of the United States Postal Service creed. Nonetheless, the Silk Road would soon be the ultimate route or routes for messengers, merchants, and explorers alike. The roads were used in a few manners, with the main being for commercial trade. Despite the fact that the term we know it by now was not actually coined until the late 19th century, the Silk Road did, in fact, serve as a major contributor of the trade of silks throughout the region it spanned over. For a long while, silk only came out of China due to the fact that it was the Chinese who had discovered how to harvest the material from the cocoons of silkworms and had strategically hidden this.
I want to know though, how the fuck do you look at a silkworm cocoon, at a worm's cocoon, and you're like, I bet I can make clothing out of that. What?
Discovery from the rest of the world. Thanks to the creation of the Silk Road network, though, the material and products produced from it could now be sold all throughout the path to Europe. And it was the far west Romans, in particular, who really fell in love with this Chinese commodity. This near obsession with silk that the Romans developed would actually also prove to be a prime example of how the Silk Road not only spread goods from west to east and east to west, but brought culture and new ideas to each state that it touched. In the case of Rome and silk, the remarkable demand for the product within the empire eventually put Rome in a position of an unfavorable balance of trade, which deeply bothered the emperors. While nothing would ever be done to rectify this before the 476 fall of the Western Roman Empire, the Eastern Roman Empire, or the Byzantines, would take on the burden, and it would be their emperor who now put an end to it. After discovering the source of this infatuating material, Emperor Justinian sent 2 men undercover as monks into China to steal enough silkworms to start a new production stream of silk back in Byzantium. The expedition worked, and now the Eastern Roman Empire could save itself from the same high-priced silk-induced trade imbalance of their Western counterpart. Silk was still not the only popular export along the Silk Road, though. Additionally, from east to west, products such as teas, dyes, spices, porcelain, paper, gunpowder, and medicine were all frequently traded. paper and gunpowder would go on to make significant impacts in the contemporary European world, with gunpowder changing warfare as they knew it, and paper soon becoming the primary canvas for writing. As the Eastern trade changed the Western culture and world, the West did the same for the East. Western merchants would sell goods like glassware, textiles, animal furs, certain foods such as fruits or honey, live animals, rugs and blankets, armor, and horse-riding necessities. Here alone, we see the inspiration for new thinking and new ways of life being passed along the network of trade routes. And this does not even include the spread of religions or ideologies that would occur thanks to the merchants and travelers themselves. And yet, all of this was done while most merchants, messengers, and the like never went across the whole Silk Road network. In reality, the vast majority of the traders especially would only go part way, sell or trade their goods to another merchant, and then that man would go on and do the same. This created a large system of middlemen and also allowed for the opening of new businesses. Inns and resting places for the common caravans would soon begin popping up along the routes, and on the less legal side, robbers became frequently employed. There was one man who would travel from one end to the other though, and he would make the road famous through his writing about the journey. It was Marco Polo, who spent 3 years alongside his father, aged only 17, traversing the Silk Road until they finally reached the Chinese palace of Kublai Khan in 1275 AD. The Polos would stay in Asia for years more, where the young man traveled to places he'd never seen and met people and cultures he'd never imagined. When Marco Polo yet again traveled along the Silk Road, this time to return home to Venice in 1295, he brought back with him all of the knowledge and experience that he had gained from his time in Asia and shared it all with the European world in his book, The Travels of Marco Polo. Language, culture, religion, discovery, and so on and so forth were all shared along the Silk Road, making the ancient trade network an invaluable part of history and our world today. Even disease spread along the routes, and many historians point to the Silk Road in particular as being the possible culprit for the spread of the devastating
I mean, when you look at really the areas in which it spread from and to, right? Like, obviously it affected India. But like, where we really see the deadliest line of trajectory here, I'm assuming is what they're showing. It's kind of, pretty clear.
Black Death in the 14th century. Yet, the Silk Road only lasted for another 100 years. This is because after the Ottoman Empire conquered Byzantium, the Ottomans all but entirely cut off any trade with the West and shut down the Silk Road. Looking for ways around this, many Europeans began to explore the sea instead, hoping for a means around the blockage on land. This birthed the Age of Discovery, lending soon to the eventual European expeditions to the New World that would shape so many countries as we know them today. In many ways, it was the Silk Road itself that can be credited for these monumental moments in history, as it was the possibilities provided by the incredible trade network that would give Europeans a craving for further exploration and global trade, which would send them to the seas in response to the Ottoman intervention. Thus, the Silk Road worked in a plethora of ways. It served, obviously, as a hub for international trade and commerce. Additionally, these routes would open up new journeys for explorers, allow for easier passage of messengers from east to west, and through all of this helped to share and exchange cultures, languages, religions, ideas, development, and sadly, even disease.
And that was how the Silk Road actually worked. Sort of. It wasn't really actually too much about, it was more so about its founding and then its kind of closing. They spent a brief period on how it actually worked, which was when they were talking about the middlemen and stuff like that, the inns, taverns, and things. I feel like this was more so about like the origins of the Silk Road, and then it's an inevitable shutting down by the Ottomans. Um, but don't get me wrong, still a great video. You all know, if you've watched my previous reactions to Nologia videos, you know I am a big fan of this channel. Um, yeah, I think they do great work. Very consistent. In quality, just love them. So I've got nothing else to add here at the end, though. I hope you guys enjoyed as well as I did. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.